Great. Thank you. It really is a pleasure to be here. My heart is full with old friends, family that I will be calling out. This is very much a family affair. And baseball fans that will inherently understand what we're about to present in some way. I am standing here with my old friends Gina and Josh. And the last time we stood together at such an auspicious occasion was 30 years and 6 months ago, as we held a very public event to welcome Bangor's new baseball team. Oh. There we are. And a lot can change in 30 years, right, Gina?
Yeah, you can say a lot can change. Not familiar, that in the middle, that was me. Well, I am a very proud trans woman. Came out almost 20 years ago. But I still have a huge passion for the game of baseball. Go Giants. But yes, it's an honor to be amongst dear friends, reliving one of the best times of my entire life.
So the presentation will be in a couple of parts. Gina and Josh are going to sort of bring us up to present day, and then I'm going to share with them for the first time what I have uncovered over the last couple of months in preparation for this event. So we're going to let Josh sort of kick us off.
Good morning. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dan. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Our journey to Bangor and the Blue Ox began in Burlington, North Carolina, with the Burlington Indians. As Dan mentioned, a Cleveland rookie ball affiliate in the Appy League that was owned by Miles Wolff. Many of you probably know the name Miles Wolff, a pioneer and a legend in minor league baseball. Our experience in Burlington was formative, and I believe that without that experience, Babe and the Blue Ox would not have happened. Not only did the three of us meet there, but we saw firsthand what a team and a vibrant ballpark could mean to a community. The ballpark itself was, in one word, glorious for people who love baseball. Originally built in Virginia, it was literally moved piece by piece to Burlington, North Carolina. It had a solid cinder block grandstand, painted blue, metal bleachers, a rickety press box on the top that you could only access through this very narrow, twisty ladder on top of the roof, and wood fences painted with advertisements. It oozed history. It oozed that North Carolina heat as we prepared for game day. And when the lights came on, the community came out, and many of them came out almost every day. The community at the ballpark mirrored the community in general. There's Ann Cook. She sat in the front row. She hosted players at barbecues at her house outside of town. There was C.J. Richmond, a young kid who worked in the concession stand and may or may not have had to be reminded to put on a shirt in the concession stand when it was 100 degrees. There's a Hoot Gibson who brought his wife's pies to the office, and Jeff Davis who rolled up to the ballpark in his red ponytail with his muddy 4x4 and may or may not have had a machete in the driver's side door. Mickey Jaslow tended bar at the beer truck. Louise sat in the bleachers on the first base line and brought her own baked goods. Jim Conklin, the local cop, and Budweiser John, who, as his name suggests, was literally affixed to the beer truck every single day. There were others whose names I forget, but their presence stays with me. There was a man who collected cardboard around town, and he loaded it in his beat-up truck, and he came every day and for a couple bucks sat in the grandstand and watched the games. And a man and his wife, who kind of see it on the picture there, they had a tent and they sold cinnamon donuts down the third base line. They made the community whole, and they made the ballpark a carnival, 40 times a year. They made it real, and it was there, at the beer truck after the games, on the field, under the lights, when everybody had gone home, that we thought about what that community could mean somewhere else, what that community could mean to Bangor for independent baseball, where we could run it our way and we could sign our players, and what it would be for us to make it our own in a new place. And it was there in Burlington that the Blue Ox were born.
Loaded up the trucks and moved to Bangor Lee. We, as Josh said, we did have there was a moment of clarity, I remember, as, you know, a tradition of minor league baseball for staff, I believe. After the game was over, we'd all have our duties, and then we would reassemble at the beer truck. And it was at that beer truck where we had thought, well, Paul Bunyan is from Bangor. Hey, Babe, the Blue Ox. He could wear number 3 for Babe Ruth. And it just sort of spiraled from there. And I know I was a little surprised and really, really honored when Dean asked me in the parking lot after one of our night games, want to go to Bangor? And he's like, sure. What an adventure. What an absolute adventure. We got to Bangor and got started right away on a snowy January night in front of 500 people with Mike Bordick of the then Oakland A's on hand for hot dogs and mini bats, and to find out about this new thing that's coming to town. And we wanted to give license to the city and to the community that was going to be so important to us. We did the Name the Team contest in collaboration with the Bangor Daily News. Over 1,200 entries came in 9 days. Everything from the Bangor Barbies to the Bangorillas. There were the Langoliers was one that stuck out to me. Stephen King territory up in Bangor. Babe in his first iteration, and through whiteout, and this is pre-internet and pre-Photoshop. So we would take the early designs, white out the parts we didn't like, rescan them, rerun them through the Xerox machine, and make our own adjustments, and Babe became a legend. We announced the name and logo. It was a very special day. I sat at a fax machine for 7 hours. This is no internet, no emails, faxing through the baseball directory. Thank you, Baseball America. Every possible organization that I could find, the Hall of Fame being one of them. And the following day, our ticket manager, Bill Swift, comes in and says, the Hall of Fame's on the phone. And I thought it was a joke. And it was it was real. It was former head librarian Tim Wiles saying that we were looking for a team to share the development from day one through first pitch. And we were thrilled to be able to have this affiliation with the Hall of Fame before a first pitch was even thrown. So fast forward, last December, my cousin Julia and my uncle decided to make a trip up here. I wanted to see the archive, which is still available to see in the library. I called Dean. I said, I'm going to go look at the stuff. And he says, I'll come join you. And through that, we found out about the symposium. And here we are.
Yep, sorry. Didn't mean to rush you.
No. I tend to go.
So we played 2 glorious years in Bangor. The sun was always shining. And, and then it sort of turned political. We only had a 2-year lease at the University of Maine, tried to get a stadium built, couldn't do it, ran out of gas, literally had no place to play, and had to sell the team. But as Gina mentioned, we sort of came back around last December. And talking to Cassidy, I said, we've got the rest of the stuff if you're interested. And she said, yes, we are. And so the archive could be delivered. And we heard about the symposium. I also sort of promised a legacy that I'm not sure where it was. And that was the quest that I began. Let me make him a little more real for you here.
Red Sox. There's a Blue Ox. There's like the history of lumbering right there. Adirondack Lumberjacks third base coach and Babe the Blue Ox. I think that's one of the great logos around, too, Babe.
On Father's Day, the winning streak ended despite Corey Parker's 2-run home run in the bottom of the 6th inning.
It didn't exactly help out starter R.J. Spang, but he settled down here. Maybe the Blue Ox can get back in it. Babe is racing this kid around the bases, and look, the kid has beat him again. Tag it home. The catcher's tag. Coaching the kid to victory, defeating the Babe. That's a great mascot. Does a nice job.
Classic minor league stuff. He just really became the face of what we were doing. And I have to say, for decades, the Blue Ox held this sort of energy for me. If you know, you know. This is my introduction to heartbreak at age 9. My wife in the role of Tom Yawkey, politics notwithstanding. You know, it just felt like a failure. And nobody asked me about it for 20 years. We literally sold the team and packed a truck and left town. And the players scattered. And I had no idea what had happened to it. In the middle of the pandemic, I got a text from a fan that said, "Hey, are you the guy that did the thing? And do you have any hats?" And I'm like, well, this is interesting. You know, who are you? And for 6 years, he texted me a couple of times a year with stuff like this. "Hey, this is my buddy's collection, just trying to make me jealous, LOL. Like, well, that's a lot of stuff. And then you look on eBay, and there was a market for this. Like, you know, $75 for a pennant? Well, somebody cares somewhere. And Bill Swift would posted something about the 30th anniversary, and it got a lot of reactions, like, oh, remember the days. So I went to the scrapbook, and I found contact sheets. And this was a window to the past. Like, this photographer that hung out with us had all these, you know, I contacted him. I said, "Do you have all the images?" And he said, "Yeah." And he pulled them out, and there was stuff like this. And I thought, well, okay, these kids must know, they must remember. How can we find them? So I got the band back together. Literally, this Zoom call, we had not been together in conversation for 29 years. And I said, there's a story here that we have to do because we've committed to do it for the Hall of Fame. Billy just so happened to run the warehouse for the original embroiderer. He's like, "I just found the tape." And he fired it up on a machine, and suddenly we had merchandise from the original embroidery tape. I love that one on the right, sort of the past interrupting Billy's present, like, okay, I got stuff to do. What are we doing here? I said, pull out the boxes, fellas, get the stuff. I'm gonna ask you, frankly, if it's okay to sort of pick some scabs and reimagine, re-envision what we did. And so it started this oral history project, basically, and I had an ulterior motive because we're building this conversation tool, sort of like a FaceTime, in conversation, using AI to uncover community storytelling. And I have to say, we all have these sort of linear memories, right? This chronological, okay, I recall what happened, but we all have these very personal moments, those things that are seared in our brains, right? Baseball is very personal for all of us, and we had these magic moments. And one of mine at the ballpark was a father of maybe 40, or I guess a son of maybe 40, taking his father of maybe 70 to the bathroom. I just overheard this, "No, Dad, this way." And I'm like, oh, we have built the stage for these sorts of moments. And so this fan that had texted me, I'm like, well, tell me more. He said, I was 10, and my grandfather would take me, and then if I was good, I'd go to these local restaurants that were legendary. I said, that's great. And we had a conversation, and I was sort of picking at that. I envisioned his perfect moment. It was my perfect moment, and with family. And he sort of stopped me in conversation and said, "Where did you get all the merch?" Turns out he was a rapper who just loved the logo and sort of remembered it as a youth, but had just been on this quest and even printed some 3D bling there on the right. I'm like, well, his memory is different than mine, but how cool. There was a formula for independent baseball at the time. You needed your local player, you needed your big name, oil can Boyd in the center, and your mascot. And Chad White was a University of Maine All-American. The media loved him. And he was a fan favorite, a spokesman for the team. In conversation now, the only thing he kept was his gamer. He's like, I don't talk about my baseball playing career much. But his daughter found a stash of Blue Ox stuff, and she wears it around as retro cool. Nice. Oil can. Oil can is a complicated figure. I was an unabashed fan of his. He spent 8 years with the Red Sox. He ended his career in independent ball. And I believe is a historical figure worth further study. Misunderstood in Boston, as we learned in this room the other day. But for him, wearing the Blue Ox whites was a perfect moment for me. When he arrived in town, we took him over to Channel 2. And as he sat for his interview just before the cameras rolled, I'll go fast, He said, hold on, my personality. And he pulled out these gold chains from his hoodie. That was a perfect moment for me. Matt Fine, who was a 26-year-old reporter at the time, and now is a professor at Temple, had no recollection of this interview at all. Nope. No idea. Well, what do you remember about the Blue Ox? He said, I remember you gave me the scoop of when Oil Can was going to pitch, because we were saving him and we got rained out. Of course we did. I said, do you remember what we gave away? He said, no. I said, can openers, of course. He remembered the opportunity to spark his love for play-by-play, right? That was his perfect moment. Mark Reben, one of our pitchers, he remembers Oil Can's personality, seen here on Media Day.
Yeah, I got this big gold nugget that says Oil Can in diamonds around my neck. I remember saying to him one game, I said, I can't wear those today. I said, I'm going to get mugged. And he said, no, you'll be fine. Well, he was right. I was fine. And he pitched a gem, and we got back to the locker room, and he said, I'll take those now. I said, no, I think I'll keep them. And we joked about it. And he did. He let me wear them for the night.
That must have been quite a sight at the Elmira Denny's. Oil Can was great for us. We got a lot of earned media. This is my favorite image of all. Oil Can with these young players, these imparting wisdom. And now Mark Reben has been a coach for 27 years and still tells the Oil Can stories. So that inspiration of baseball. Quickly, we had a birthday club. As people named the team, they put their birth date and they sent letters, Dear Mark Reben and Babe, and they drew pictures like this. These kids remember. Mark signed a logo ball. Just recently, he sells industrial windows, and a customer pulled a ball out and said, I was too shy to ask for your autograph 30 years ago. Will you sign this for me? This is last month. Unbelievable. Danny Cashman was a college kid in the suit. Sorry to shatter any illusions, but there is somebody in the suit. He said at the time, I want to be David Letterman. Well, it turns out he had a night show for 20 years in Bangor, and David Letterman was his final guest. But one of his first guests was Josh Gordon. I told Danny that the suit still lived, and he said, I have a special. You have to come on the show. And you might think that the person animates the suit. It really is the other way around. This is me. About a month ago, I pulled the suit off a mannequin.
For the first time in 29 years, please welcome Babe the Blue Ox.
And he returned. And he entered the selfie era. These little kids whipped out their phones like pistoliers. And I was like, wait, what is happening right now? But a new generation. And so we've been having these conversations. This is the woman who designed the original costume. She sewed it with her family 30 years ago. That's her father, who started making hand puppets for Channel 2. I have to say that my mascot is in good shape because of Vince. And Vince is the owner of the club, my father-in-law, who grew up watching Ted Williams, had a great career, and got to own a minor league baseball team and sit in the Ox box with his grandchildren on his knee. And he wore that hat till the day he passed away last year. Independent baseball was a license to lose money, and we did. As a son-in-law, that had some awkward moments. And I said, I just want to thank you for all this. And he said, those 2 years were the best of my life. And it was sort of a no, son, thank you. Really special. Lonnie Goldberg, Vice President of Player Personnel for the Royals. Beth Jarrett was the first female trainer in AAA. But where is Bingo, the ground round clown? Does this boy remember that he stood next to a big leaguer for the national anthem? Do these girls still like baseball? Do they play baseball? All of these people that embraced the Blue Ox had their own memories, and I'm in conversation with them now. And I thought, the best way to do this is if we can let them know what we're doing and for them to bring us their memories. And I got a text just on Friday. Somebody had been watching the social media, and they said, I was in the stands that opening night, and I was 15 years old. I said, do you remember what we gave away? He said, yes, can openers. I had it in my room forever. And he said, I remember when the helicopter landed and Babe came out, and I sent him a little screen grab, and he said, there it is. I was in the seats with my family, so thrilled in that moment. I said, that is great to hear. That is the legacy that has been very healing for me, because there are stories that we will never know. It's a supernova. It's a big bang that these things continue to hurtle. Everyone took their own piece, and that is the legacy of the Blue Ox.
emerged at Jack Murphy Stadium in front of 47,000 fans. He hatched as the new famous Chippin'.
He was cute enough for the kids, but he had enough attitude for the adults, and it was really that sweet spot. Cool. Still.
Where is the suit?
Funny you should ask that question.
He still has your question?
I don't know how you follow that.
So we are out of time. I know. Just one thing. Yeah. This is my 20th year at this symposium. I've presented maybe about a half a dozen times. This was without a doubt the most meaningful.
Yeah, fair.